heroes are for the retirees in
Good morning. We've got some energy in the room this morning. That is outstanding. I love to see this big crowd. I'd like to call the board meeting for Tuesday, February 21st to order. You guys may have to bear with me a little bit this morning. I did not bring my reader glasses, so you may see me doing some of this as I'm trying to read what I need to, but bear with me. The Texas Government Code permits this Board of Trustees to meet in a closed executive session for the following reasons, among others: to consult with the college district's attorneys on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, a prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. If the board meets in a closed session, we will announce the particular section under which we will be doing so prior to initiating the closed portion of the meeting. Now we're going to have our invocation and pledge to the American and Texas flags. We've got with us for the invocation today, Miss Samantha Nolan, sophomore from Wallace, Texas, majoring in theater arts. And our pledge to the American and Texas flags are Josiah Fernandez, a sophomore from Houston, majoring in theater arts as well. Thank you guys for being here.
Let us bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today in admiration of your glory. We pray that you continue to watch over our wonderful students and staff members here at Blinn College. Allow us to open our hearts and minds to you, Lord. We thank you for the opportunities you have provided us. We ask for safety, guidance, and grace. We ask that you give strength, hope, and comfort to the students, faculty members, and administration that may be dealing with personal turmoil. We thank you, Lord, for your holy hands are upon us. It is in your gloriful name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Samantha and Josiah, again, really appreciate you guys being here to do that for us today. Okay, does not appear that anyone signed up for public comment today, so we will move on to item 4 in reports, and the first will be the Chancellor's Administrative Report. Dr. Hensley.
Thank you, Chair Colkhorst, and good morning, everyone. What a lovely group to welcome this morning. Trustees, I'd like to talk to you a little moment about Sam Houston State and a new partnership that we recently created with them. Last month, their state university president, Dr. Elisa White, visited the Blinn Bryan campus to join us in announcing a new transfer partnership between our respective institutions. Through this partnership, Blinn and Sam Houston State have established 16 bachelor's degree pathways that provide students a semester-by-semester plan to earn their associate degree at Blinn. Then apply those credits towards their bachelor's degree at Sam Houston State. Now, as a part of this agreement, Blinn is providing Sam Houston State representatives with office space on the Brenham campus and the Bryan campuses to meet with students and assist them with academic advising, financial aid, and related transfer details. At this time, I would like to share a brief video regarding this new partnership. This truly is an exciting day for Blinn College and for Sam Houston State. This partnership is going to allow Blinn students a seamless, affordable pathway to complete their bachelor's degree at Sam Houston State University. These are the pathways that students can pursue bachelor's degrees in. An unbelievable list of opportunities for those of you who would like to come to Blinn and go to Sam Houston State University, which we highly, highly encourage you to do.
We are here as higher ed leaders wanting to help our students get through with as little debt as possible. And so I'm delighted to welcome Blinn students to Sam Houston State University. Building a talent-strong Texas starts right here.
I'd like to congratulate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Dr. Marcelo Busicki, for making this partnership possible and for continuing to expand Blinn's transfer partnerships with universities across the nation. And now, if you don't mind, I'd like to move to the podium, and we have some retirees joining us today. Trustees, we are joined today by 3 employees who have announced their retirement after a combined 82 years of service to Blinn College and its students. Gary Weaver, will you please step forward and stand beside the dais next to Trustee Ehlert, pardon me. Hi, Gary. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Trustees, Gary is an HVAC Technician 3 on the Brenham campus, and he is retiring after 17 years with Blinn. Prior to coming to Blinn, Gary worked in motorcycle assembly at Columbus Outfitters. He joined Blinn staff as a transportation worker in November of 2005, and then he became an HVAC technician in 2007. In September 2017, Gary was promoted to an HVAC Technician 3. Richard Leminski, Director of HVAC and Energy Management, said, quote, Gary brought a lot of experience with him in his knowledge of mechanical equipment and appliances. He always had a smile on his face, just as he does at this moment, with a grin, a chuckle, and a laugh at everything. He truly is going to be missed by the department and by Blinn College. Gary, thank you for all you have done for this campus and for Blinn College for the past 17 years. I smile every time I see you. I'm so delighted that I've had the opportunity to be with you part of your time at this college. And I wish you just all the blessings and joys in the future as you transition into this new retirement phase. We're going to miss you, and we'll hope you'll come back and see us. Thank you so very much. Gary, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we extend our most sincere appreciation to you, and we wonder if you would move to the front, and we'd like to take a photo with you, and also if you would like to shake hands with our trustees.
So you don't have to put up with Richard. Yeah, really. Thank you.
Chair Colquist would like to say a few things to you.
Okay.
Gary, congratulations on your retirement. I'm not sure if HVAC is more fun than putting motorcycles together, but we're glad we got you. We hope that they're both cool. They are both cool. You're right. Very good. Very good. So we've got a little gift here in honor of your retirement, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Gary, I wonder, would you like to say anything while you're with us this morning?
Well, I didn't know I was going to have to do that, but I really appreciate my time here, and I made a lot of friends. Just couldn't find a better place to meet good people, and I appreciate it. I learned a lot, and I guess that's probably it.
May I just say you're the coolest person to do the coolest work. I'm so proud of you. All right, let's step forward perhaps about a foot. And you stay there, and I'm just...
All right, I'll count to 3. All right, I will count to three, and 1, 2, 3. And just one more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Charles Hirsch, will you please stand beside the dais? Trustees, hey Charlie. Charles is a maintenance mechanic 2 carpenter on the Brenham campus, and he is retiring after 29 years with Blinn College. Since his hire in October 1993, Charles has specialized in providing locksmith services across campuses. Brandon Burrow, Director of Facilities on the Brenham campus, said, quote, Charles's attention to detail and meticulous record keeping has benefited Blinn exponentially in maintaining campus buildings and key security. He has been a great person to work with and will be missed. On behalf of all of those in the college, I would like to congratulate him for all he has done as he enters retirement. Charlie, I echo those sentiments. When I first came to Blinn, you were one of the first people who came by my office to meet me. And I was so impressed, trustees. He has pages, not computer printouts, but handwritten pages of every lock in this campus, and who it was issued, and when it was returned, and then who got it the next time as that position was replaced. And he had a small list that he had narrowed it down to of keys still to this day unfound, but practically like 4 maybe. And he has a strong suspicion that he knows where those keys are. And we're just going to leave it at that. Charlie, it's been a pleasure in 29 years of service to this college. You've given a great portion of your life to the Blinn College District, and for that we are so very grateful. I hope that you also go into your future retirement with all the blessings and joys that you deserve, and you do. And Charlie, I wonder if you would let us take a picture of you also, and I'll do the same thing. I'll put this mic over here, and if you would, just shake the trustees' hands, and then we'll meet you in the middle. Charlie, I know that Trustee Kilkhorst would like to say something, and then we're going to have you speak and make your introductions, if that's okay.
I think we might have found out where one of those 4 keys are. Trustee Krausen admitted to it just a moment. Charlie, thank you for 29 years. That is just fantastic, and it's really cool that someone can go to an organization and stay that long of service here. Going to be big shoes to fill. Thank you. And we've got a gift for you for your retirement. Hope you enjoy it.
And Charlie, I know you have a guest with you, a special person, and also if you would like to introduce her and then maybe say any remarks that you would like to, we welcome that.
This is my wife, Lene, 45 years. Time goes by when you're having fun. 45 or almost 30. So thank you, Blinn College, for allowing me to work here. It's been a blessing.
You have been blessed by your presence. All right, let me put the mic over here. Okay, Trustee Krausen, the pressure's on for the key. All right, Sharon Prigge, would you please step forward? Sharon. Trustees, Sharon is an admissions and records specialist on the Brenham campus, and she retired at the end of January. But we had our board meeting then in Bryan. So we asked her if she would like to come today and be recognized, and she did, and we're so glad that you came. Even after retirement, you seem to be loyal to Berlin and just come on and come whenever we ask. Thank you so very much. Trustees, 36 years with Blinn College, 36 years. It's a long time. Sharon's career at Blinn began in August of 1987 as a library clerk. And in 2002, she moved to the admissions office and became an admissions and records clerk. And in 2001, she moved to her role as an admissions and records specialist. In this position, Sharon has helped thousands of Blinn students register for classes, process transcripts, and process all the paperwork they need to begin their college careers. Now, Christy Urban was her supervisor and has given the following quote. Sharon wore many hats in the admissions and records office. She entered applications, tracked admissions documents, entered test scores, assisted at events such as preview days, new student registration, and graduation, and so much more. Sharon always greeted students with a smile and made sure they left the office with everything they needed to be successful. Sharon, 36 years, a huge portion of your life to the cause and the devotion of Blinn College. That's just incredible. On behalf of the administration and all of our faculty and staff and hundreds, thousands of students and the Board of Trustees, we are so honored that you gave so much of your personal life to this college, and we wish you all the blessings and joys of the future as you now go into retirement. And you've had your foot in that door now for 1 month, so I hope it's going well. And if it isn't, I have an application that you can fill out to come back to Blinn College. Sharon, thank you so very much. Won't you again join the trustees and shake their hand and let them thank you as well?
Sharon, you must have started when you were 10. Wow. Well, so your entire career has been with Blinn College. Well, thank you. I don't know if retirement has started all that fantastically for you, but oh wow, wow. So hopefully it's healing well, and you're going to be able to enjoy the rest of your retirement. We've got a little gift here from the board on behalf of the Board of Trustees. Thank you so much. Got that.
Yeah, I've got quite a crew with me today. I have, are they supposed to come up? My husband, Ken Prigge, who's been really helpful with my broken arm right now. My besties in admissions, Pam, Kelly, Lee, Brandy, Sheila, Christy Urban, and then even Kyle. Kyle's over in the other department across the hall there in enrollment services, but he's also a very good friend and very good friend to me. And yeah, I went to high school, then I went to college 2 years, and then I started working in August, and it's been really great. Got a lot of friends. I still talk to them all the time, and we're gonna, as soon as I get healed up, we're gonna start doing things. So, looking forward to it.
Sounds wonderful. that's all right with you, why don't we take 2 sets of pictures? One's just us, and then let's have all your friends and supporters and coworkers come up here. Yes, you did, and then Christy's, and Christy, you will lead the whole group up here in just a moment, okay? All right, let me set this down, and in the picture, Trustee Oakhorst and I will hold this for you, okay?
Oh, that's right. One more.
I know. Seems like yesterday.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now, trustees, if you don't mind, I have a little more information from my report, but I'm going to return over to my seat. I'm so proud of you all. It's just so exciting to see you transition to your next portion of your lives, and just really do. Thank you so very much for all the contribution you have made to this college. It's just so heartwarming. Trustees, we're going to switch now to a program that you haven't heard much about, probably, and we're continuing, as you know, each month to focus on different parts of the college. And today, we are going to focus on surgical technology. And we're joined today by Michelle Trubenstein, who is the Dean of Health Sciences. She's going to ask me, I think, to explain to you when she comes up that she was not socked in the jaw. There's a legitimate reason why she has a little bruise spot, and it's all safe and healthy. There's nothing troublesome about it, but it did occur. And then also we have Linda Hill, Surgical Technology Program Director, and we have students Serena Messinger, Samuel Rojas Esquivel, and Dakota Steinbecker to discuss our surgical tech program at Texas A&M at Rellis. This 60-credit-hour Associate of Applied Science degree prepares students for high-demand careers as surgical technologists. In this role, graduates play an integral part on the surge team, assisting surgeons, anesthesiologists, and registered nurses in providing care for patients in the operating room. At this time, I would like to invite Dean Trubenstein to share more details regarding this exciting program, and I'm sure she will make additional introductions. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Oakhorst, Dr. Hensley, and the chairman, or rest of the board members. Thank you for this opportunity to share a bit about health science and specifically about surgical technology. I'm just going to give a quick overview of the programs that we have at Rellis. Actually, Linda, would you stand? She's our program director, as introduced, along with Samuel Rosas Esquivel, Serena Munsinger, and Dakota Steinbecker. So thank you all for coming today, because I know today was a clinical day for y'all. So thank you for coming. In health sciences, we have 15 degrees and certificates, and Surg Tech is one of 9 programs. At the Rellis campus, we have the Associate Degree Nursing, the Licensed Vocational Nursing to RN Transition, which is our LVNT program, the Paramedic to RN Transition, which we just started this fall. Emergency Medical Services, we have a certificate and an AAS degree, Physical Therapist Assistant, Radiologic Technology, and Surgical Technology. At Brenham, in the STEI building, we have our Vocational Nursing program, which has a blended online program as well as the face-to-face, and another cohort of our LVNT group for the associate degree. At the post office campus, we have our associate degree in dental hygiene, and at Brayton Firefield, we have 2 degrees, the Fire Science Technology, the Fire Safety and Health, as well as a certificate level 2, which is just the Fire Academy. So that's the 9 programs along with the 15 certificate and degrees that we have. In getting ready, or I forgot, HIT, my online program. They're the one they're online, the only one. They have 2 different offerings. So always forget to include my online. Sorry, Jamie. Okay, did some research on this program in preparation for this presentation, because initially surgical technology was a certificate level program that was discontinued in 2011 due to low enrollment. In 2016, Baylor Scott & White approached Blinn to start again as an Associate of Applied Science degree, and seeking programmatic accreditation began in 2017. Per the standards, all the programs had to change to the associate degree by 2021, so we didn't want to go back to the certificate level. We needed to go ahead and pursue the associate degree. Oops, I need to go back. My first day at Blinn, I had a meeting with the accreditation program. So there were some issues we had to work through, so we got those changed. We got our report submitted, and on May 20th, 2020, Dr. Hensley and I both received notification that at the KHEP meeting in May 15, 2020, we did receive initial accreditation. So we are initially accredited full program for the associate degree offering. So what is surgical technology? Dr. Hensley touched on some of that, but it's a surgical technologist may also be called a scrub tech, surgical technician, operating room technician. They go by a lot of different names. They are an allied health professional working as part of the team delivering surgical care, and they are members of that surgical team. So what does one do? As Dr. Hensley pointed out, they prepare the operating rooms, they sterilize equipment, make sure that there are adequate supplies needed for each surgery. They get patients ready for surgery. They help the surgeons during the surgery by passing the instruments, keeping things sterile, count supplies, surgical instruments, 2x2s, different things like that, because we don't want anything left in the body after surgery. So that's part of what this group of professionals do. And they maintain the sterile environment, because that is very, very important. We don't want infection to come in. So Bureau of Labor Statistics, these are 2021 facts. They show the median average pay of $48,500, with Bryan College Station coming in a little bit less than that at $45,700. Again, this is 2021 data, so it hasn't caught up with some of the pay raises that have been implemented throughout the state. They also show an expected 6% growth in the job, which is a little bit less, I think, than what we have locally, because I did a search on Indeed on February 1st. There's over 65 posted positions in a 60-mile radius of Brenham. And so that's with 3 of the major hospitals, all 3 of them in Bryan College Station, having posted for multiple positions. So if all of those 65 positions are actually one posting, but could be for 5 positions, it's exponential. So there's a lot of openings out there, and it does remain, this degree remains on the Workforce Solution high demand, high pay target list. So that's good. Okay. Accreditation limits our program to acceptance of 10 students per cohort, which isn't a whole lot. 3 of the last 6 years, we didn't have the applicants to enroll even close to that number. So we do know that COVID played a part in that, but that's not always the problem. So Linda and I visited, and part of her plan of action was to offer information sessions throughout the 21-22 school year prior to the cycle for 2023 acceptance. We did have 10 accepted into this cohort that just started in January. and we had more than 10 eligible applicants. So we have a start on the next cohort as well. Because, 10 isn't a whole lot, but that's what we're accredited for. So we need to have that 10 every time. So in addition to those online orientation sessions that they have, Victoria Parnell, who is the administrative assistant for Linda, she visits with students all week long. It could be 4 or 5 per week even, so that's good. And then Kate Cardstadt, who is the recruiter for health sciences, includes information about all of the health science programs when she goes out to career fairs and different things in the local high schools. So she's getting that word out there too, which is great. Retention has been an issue with overall 63% from 2018 to 2021, which is not what we really want. But many of those withdrew because they just didn't really know what the profession was about. So providing as much detailed information about that with the job, about what the job entails, has helped us improve that retention rate. All 5 that were accepted in the last cohort are progressing. 3 of those 5 that are expected to graduate in August. So you are going to graduate, right? Okay. So you're almost there, a semester and a half. So currently we have an 82% pass rate on the NBSTSA exam, which is the national licensure that the surgical technologist takes. That's 9 of 11 from the year 20 to 22. 20 to 22. The first cohort that we had in 2019 took an NCC test, which is a state test, because we weren't fully accredited at that time. And they chose not to take the NBSTSA test. They could because we became accredited while they were in the program, but they chose to stick with that. You only have to have that to work in Texas at some hospitals. So that's what they did. Okay, for spring 2023, we have 20 pre-surgical students. The pre-classes, it's a pre-grouping of courses that you can take before you get accepted into a program. So those are deemed pre. There's 20 that are declared majors for that. There's currently the 15 in the major, the 5 that will be graduating in August, and the 10 that just started. And overall, for health sciences, we have 672 declared as pre-majors and 486 that are currently in one of our degree programs. So that's 1,158 students that are taking health science courses that are actually declared. We do have some that don't declare that take some of our open enrollment courses. So we actually have more students than what I have showing there. So that's good. Just thank you for allowing me the time to give you a little bit of information about surgical tech, and I'll stand for any questions. Okay.
Just forget to turn that off. You said retention rate had been kind of low.
Mm-hmm.
So when do they start clinical residency or be able to go in the setting?
The first summer, because they go spring,
Okay.
summer, fall, spring. So they start that first summer. And some of them have stepped out after that. Some of them have stepped out even further, which is baffling to us, but they realize this isn't for me once they really get into some of those harder
So they
papers.
start right away into that setting. Good.
Yeah, within, we have the spring semester and then summer they go out. They don't necessarily go straight to surgeries in the summer. They learn more of the equipment and do some of the sterilization processing, but they're still exposed. So.
I have a question. That 10 limit from your accreditation, is that based on the number of beds in our area, or what?
In part, it is. So it is based on beds, right? Yep. So, and that's something that after we get through our, get past the first initial accreditation, once we get our first report done, which was delayed because of COVID and everything, we should be getting that back here pretty soon. We can look at adding more clinical sites, and we've already been discussing that somewhat, so that we can increase.
Now, Jim, is that part of what Lois is looking at as far as a bill to be able to do more things like that?
I think the bill is particularly for our nursing students to make sure that they have a place to go to get their clinicals. And I don't know if that would include Surg Tech as well, but yes.
It's a problem for all of our health programs. So, and with some of our local hospitals changing, it's causing some squeeze. Okay, thank you.
Michelle, thank you, all of you. Thank you so very much. Last summer, Senator Colcourse called me, I think in July, and invited our group to speak to her Senate committee on this issue and a few others, and also to propose some solutions. And so I'm honored to say that Michelle testified, and Leighton Schubert and I were also there, and they did a super job. And I think that you've done such a great leadership within the state for our program, which is stellar, of course, and certainly renowned within the state, but also the impact that you can have in speaking directly to legislators who can make a difference for us. So again, kudos, great job. We're so proud of you, and thank you for coming. And you three, you're a short-termer now. You're almost through it, so stay with us. I know Brazos County is interested in having you. One final comment, trustees. Jason Jennings from Baylor Scott and White, he's the president CEO, was really the one that came to me one day and asked if we could activate this program again. You saw how many vacancies there were, and there's such a critical need. And so we put that into motion immediately, and thus now you see where we are. Again, thank you so very much. And Trustee Colcourse, with that, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hensley. We're going to now move on to item B in reports, the presentation of financial statement package for the period ending January 31st, 2023. I think that's going to be Mr. Cervantes.
I'm sorry.
I think I left some papers up there. Just move them out of your way and hand them to Leighton so they won't be in your way. Thank you.
Yes, this is the right slide. So I didn't know, Dr. Hensley, if you were going to dismiss some of these groups. I know how excited they've been about listening to the financial information, but just in case, do you want me to move forward or? Okay.
Let me just say, we do have a full room, and if any of you would like to go ahead and leave at this time, it's perfectly welcome. We do have some food and drinks for you in the kitchen, and then we'll transition to our regular board meetings. So, as they say, this would be a good time to slip out if you desire.
I'm so shocked.
Can't believe they didn't want to hear your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. This is our 5th month of the fiscal year. It goes through January. We're 42% of the way through the fiscal year. Our revenue through January is almost $66 million. Our expenses are at $53 million, which leaves us a net of a little bit over $13 million. When we compare that to last fiscal year, the same period of time, we had $66 million of revenue and $72 million last year, which leaves us $5.7 million less than what we had, but we had a lot of HERF money in there last year. Our expenditures are at almost $53 million, and last year they were at 50. The difference there, almost $3 million. Our net change in fund balance, we're $13 million this year. $22 million last year, which leaves us a net of $8.6 million less. We did have $12 million of HERF revenue in 2022. Our revenue comparison by source, tuition is up. As a percentage interest, we keep bringing in some revenue there and investing as wisely as we can. And then you could, that far right, you can see the HERF money last year compared to this year. Our net tuition and fees compared to budget, we budgeted $73.5 million. We're at 42 or 41.5, which leaves us about 56% of the way through. Our tuition revenue is up almost $2 million, 10%. Audit district is the largest portion of that. It brings in almost $1.8 million. Our out of state continues to be up $824,000. Our fee revenue is also up close to $2 million, 11%. And the general fee is the biggest portion of that, but lab course fees as well as the workforce are also up. Our housing and food service revenue compared to budget, we budgeted $10.8 million. We're at $5.5 million, a little bit over 51% of our budget through January. Food service is coming in the largest portion of that 906,000, 14% up. You can see housing on the left is up just a little bit. Bookstore is also up, and parking is up. Our total expenses are up $2.8 million. As we would expect, salaries and benefits makes up the largest portion of that, but we've been saying E&G, the travel and office supplies are also up 1.3, the inflation portion of that. I'll put this on there a little bit differently than what we have before, comparing specifically to 2019. The payroll expense on the far left, you can see we were at 53% through January, and back in 2019 at 49%. Not a huge difference, but there are some. On the far right, our debt service is one that we keep track of. At this time back in 2019, we were 8%. Now we're 10.5%. We do expect that number to come down as the revenue continues to go up. There's only one more payment that we have to make in April. The expense comparison by category, $2.9 million, 6%. These are pretty close to where we were last year only by 6%. And you would expect that salaries is going to be the largest portion of that, even though the percentages there are pretty close to being the same. Operating expense, same impact here as it varies throughout the different areas of the institution. That $3.3 million, the biggest portion of that is going to be the payroll. So our student cash and refunds in January, we brought in $5.1 million. The far right, you can see the student payments that we brought in, $5.2 million. We issued refunds on the left, $352,000, and then we reimbursed ourselves for the financial aid, $329,000. We had other cash receipts in January, $3.3 million. The state appropriation is the largest portion of that on the bottom, 2.6. We have some insurance proceeds. That's not from previous semesters, but those are recent. And then the grants and contracts and the miscellaneous, about $308,000. The two, almost $300,000 at the top, the interest on a monthly basis, that's a pretty good return for us. Our use of cash in January, we used $9.2 million. The bulk of that is payroll, the $5.6 million. Accounts payable, $2.8, construction, $670,000, and then a smaller amount to Servitas. So in summary, we received $5.1 million from students and then another $3.3 from other sources, but we used $9.2 million worth of cash, which led to a decrease in cash in January of $692,000. So that brought down our unrestricted cash. We were at 126 something back in December, so it brought down a little bit. Not much of a change. I stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Mr.
Fontes, in your report, where can we see what we spent on Blinn scholarships? Not necessarily endowed scholarships or anything like that, but like athletic scholarships, ag scholarships, all those types of things.
Yeah, I'm going to where I think it is. So the allowance and discounts on the far right would be where those amounts are. And those, I believe, are ours. Is that correct? Those are Blinn scholarships. I'm sorry, I'm looking back just to make sure. Those are our Blinn scholarships. Now,
so underneath our revenue page, auxiliary allowances and discounts?
So there are a portion of them that are in auxiliaries. That would be Dr. Krausen, because the students in athletics use housing, and they're getting a scholarship for housing. They get money for housing, and they also get money for books. That's the portion that's in auxiliaries that you're referring to. So this is specifically auxiliaries. This is auxiliaries. So there may be another one. You may be right. Let's see. Going to the tuition, there's another allowances and discounts. Yes. So that one that I just showed you was specifically for auxiliaries, and these are for tuition, scholarships for tuition, compared to last year. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, somewhat.
So pretty close to looked like about $2 million with those two combined, but they're separated out because one of them is giving a scholarship for auxiliary sort of services, and this one specifically is for tuition.
Okay. Yeah, I see that line item now here. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, Douglas.
Mr. Spontus, I just happened to notice this morning as I was reading the detail that we receive in the packet. Under, it says leases increased $13.1 million from the prior year, and apparently that is a requirement of GASB 87, which I think is a pretty new pronouncement.
Correct.
So is it just wasn't accounted for at all in the past, and so this is the first time entry for that 13.1?
It's a new pronouncement that GASB is requiring us to account for those leases. That's correct. I'm not sure. I think this is the first year.
Okay. It was a pretty big number, that's what I was saying.
I'm getting a nod out of
Okay,
that, yes.
so it went from not having to be reported to now being reported, and that's why you see the 13.1.
Correct, and we have, we purchased them, we were way ahead of the game and purchased some software maybe a couple years ago. They actually put it off, that's why I was hesitating on the answer, because they put it off because of COVID, the implementation. And it's been looked at by our auditors, so we think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay,
and
thanks.
all the institutions are required to do this.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cervantes. Okay, we will move on to item C and reports, institutional enrollment report for the winter 2022 mini-semester and preliminary spring 23 semester. Dr. McBride.
Good morning, Dr. Hensley, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm happy to share with you some news today about our winter mini numbers and the preliminary numbers for our spring semester. As you can see on our first slide here this morning, the numbers from 2017 all the way through this past December when we had our most current winter mini. And you can see we were very successful in increasing our enrollment this past December. As a reminder, all the courses for this semester are taught online. They're not in person. And when the students come to us, it's a very, very short time frame. So classes started December 19th. They ended January 9th. Finals are on the 10th, and they have a break for the holidays. So it's a very condensed semester. And most students, I think around 2173 of the 2190, actually took just one course during that short amount of time because it's so accelerated and it's so focused for those students. And as you can see, very few high school students take it because it's such an accelerated, fast pace for all of them. The takeaways from the winter mini, it's our highest or our largest enrollment since 2017-2018 academic year. Things we did differently, we had increased advertisements in social media and also hard copy flyers that were distributed not only around the district, but a few areas in the College Station area as well. We had an increase in both Blinn-only students and transfer students. We had an additional new 507 Blinn-only students that attended the winter mini semester with us. And out of the 116 sections we offered, that was an additional 29 compared to the 87 sections that we offered last winter mini. So thank you to Vice Chancellors Busicki and Anderson for adding some courses for students to enroll inside that short time frame. As I said, it's extremely accelerated and very fast-paced for those students. We're going to transition here a little bit into the spring 2023, which is our current semester. And as you can see by the red line on the screen, that shows you where we are right now. We are in week 6 of our 16-week sessions. The second 8 weeks and the third and fourth week sessions have not yet begun. So we're still enrolling for those courses right now. And as you can see on the pie chart, I love these visuals, but in the blue you can see the 16-week sessions that we're offering, which is almost 53% of our courses. But I'm going to focus on that light green color, that 23% of the second 8 weeks. We're still enrolling, of course, for that semester and the other 2 smaller parts of terms. We also have an additional 270 sections that are being offered this year when compared to last spring. So the college has increased the number of courses to get students enrolled and onboarded with us. We are continuing to outreach to students who may be just going part-time right now to pick up another course, and also for the new ones that are still enrolling. Trustees, the application to enroll for the spring is open till March 21st. That's when add drop closes for the second 8 weeks. So we still are onboarding new students on a continual basis. And at this time, I believe we have over 400 more students applying than we did last year at this time. So we are seeing an increase in the amount of people that are applying to us, which I think is important to note. On this slide, you can see where we are right now. We have actually already exceeded the certified number for last spring semester, and we're heading in a very fine direction for the 2021 number at this time. Just to share with you the communication I had mentioned, since October of this past year, we've sent over 240,706 emails and 190,819 text messages only about winter, mini, and spring, excluding the fall. So we're really still hitting home, so to speak, in our communication with students. And it's also current students, too, to make sure they know if they need additional services or if they need to get advised or what they could do to continue taking courses with us. On this slide is our breakdown by campus, as you can see. I'd like to note the positive increases in the in-person classes for Brenham, Bryan, high schools, and also on the Rellis campus. In distance education, we expect that to be negative because we are transitioning to bringing students back on site. I'd also like to note out of the 53 MOU agreements we have with the high schools, 26 of those have increased their enrollment with us for the spring semester. So I wanted to share that as well, and that's exciting news for us. Takeaways for the spring semester. As I said, we've already exceeded our spring 2022 certified headcount by 245 students. We anticipate that headcount will continue to increase. As I mentioned, we're still increasing our numbers in registering students, and they're still applying with us for the spring semester. We have ongoing correspondence, as I mentioned, using that lovely CRM software you've given to us, and that's been wonderful with the texting and emailing campaigns. And we've also updated our graphics. So if you see a graphic on the website that talks about what you need to do for enrollment, we have it now in eCampus, which is the online platform for students when they go to register, go look at their courses and their syllabi, and also on the My Blinn page when they log in, where they go to register and change your class schedule. So we're trying to make sure our message is consistent and it's in many places and getting that word out there to all the students. Any questions or comments for me this morning?
Chairman, I have a comment.
Yes, sir. Trustee Wells.
Yes, congratulations to Dr. McBride and her team on a tremendous job, and it's also good to see a lot of buses back on campus again. So seeing a lot of high school touring, and see Friday when they were doing some orientation stuff. So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the recovery process from COVID is going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight, and we just got to keep working and see where it goes.
And we will continue to do so. It's not over yet. So.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Yes.
And I think we may have covered this before, but I think I came on right as COVID started hitting. So just a question about the Bryan campus. Is it when Rellis opened that those numbers dropped some or not? Or is it all COVID?
I think there's a combination of things that went on. I know we had some programs that did move to the campus. Some courses were offered there, right? So students have started taking classes. And the COVID did affect us, no doubt, you know, in terms of our enrollment too, right? People made different decisions in terms of what they decided to do. So I think it's a combination.
Okay, because that's a number that just jumps out at me every
Yes.
time, so, okay.
One more question, Dr.
Sir.
Chairman Kokos, the communication on the Washington County scholarship that we launched last spring, what is the strategy to ensure that Burton and Brenham and all the other schools that were here are fully aware that that's available to them?
Thank you for the question. I know, working with Brent, and I believe he's here. Come up, Brent. I think he's the one you want to hear from directly in terms of what our plans are moving forward and increasing that knowledge and awareness.
Good morning. So our plans are to develop a specific communication plan that as those students are admitted or apply and we identify them, then we encourage them and let them know that to be eligible for this, that they'll need to do the endowed scholarship as well as the FAFSA. We do send out around April emails to all the area high schools, and so the high schools specifically that fall under the Washington County Scholarship will get notifications to their counselors to pass to tell their students, but we'll be sending out to them through email processes and using the Element 451 software. So.
Leighton, would you like to add a little bit more?
Thank you, Dr. Hensley. Let me just piggyback on what Brent just said. So we have a multi-point campaign for the Washington County Scholarship. He just talked about some of our internal software, Element 451, text messages, those sort of things. We've run a very aggressive marketing campaign, both on our social media and through our paid marketing with KBHI, Brenner Press, all those sort of things. We've also developed a mailing campaign that we're mailing communication directly to the homes of all of the juniors and seniors at Washington County high schools. So that information is going directly to their homes for their parents to see. And of course, we also have embedded those items with the counselors at the high schools. So the counselors in the high schools are also handing out that information. So we have a multi-tiered approach to that, and we have seen some increases in that, and we continue to find ways and other creative ways to continue to get the message out that those resources are available, and all you have to do is apply, and you will automatically qualify.
Did that answer your questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Leighton answered it while he was going. My question was, it's been my experience that many times if you just go through the counselors in the high school, it never gets to the students. So by going directly to them, we have, I guess you could say, a better penetration of getting to those students. So, but he answered that, so.
Great. Okay, if no other questions, I think that Dr. McBride, you're handling D as well, Blinn Brenham Housing Summary Report for the spring 2023 semester.
All righty. Well, good morning again. I'm going to talk a little bit about our housing here on the Brenham campus. Have some nice photos there of our students and the beautiful buildings that we have for them to live in. As you can see on our first slide, talking about housing, where we were from spring of 2020 until the current semester, looking at the occupancy rate, at 64% right now. We took on this semester, 166 new students did apply to move in with us, and 148 of them completed all the steps. So they're here on campus. That means only 18 of the new students, for whatever reason, decided to not move on campus, and we do continue our communication with them to see if they want to come move on campus with us mid-semester, because we do offer that option for students. I'm also very thrilled to say the quarantine is not a thing anymore for us. We have those beds aside, but we haven't put anyone in them, and that's a great feeling, honestly, to say after the past couple years. We've come a long way. When you look at our fill rate, from 2017 until currently, you can see the percentages on the screen from fall to spring. And I would like to share that we do send a survey the 2 full semesters, so every fall and every spring, about midway through. The housing department reaches out to residential students and asks them what their plans are for the next semester. So we want to know, are you keeping your bed assignment? Are you leaving us? And why are you leaving us? And I'd like to tell you, we had, let's see here, we had 1,491 students here in the fall. 1,435 of them had responded to our survey, and just around 1,246 Of that 1,435 said they were returning to us. Of course, the majority came back. And the highest amount of the 184 that didn't return to us, the highest number, there was over 70 students that said they were transferring to a four-year institution. So that's what we want to hear, right? We want to hear that they're transferring and they're moving on and they're doing the next parts of their lives. We had other students talking about graduating. 10 entered the workforce, 1 joined the military. And we do this just so we have a good handle on what's going on with our students. And that's something we've been doing the past couple years, again, so we know who to expect and who not to expect. We have 2 slides here as a breakdown, because we have so many buildings, of who's in what building at this time. If you recall, for both Buccaneer Hall on this first slide, and as we look at the second breakdown, Spencer Hall were the 2 buildings we did not put students in this year. Unfortunately, we just didn't have enough folks and didn't want to run extra facilities without enough students in them. So we made sure we consolidated where we put our students. We do have around, I want to say 817 beds we hold for special populations. So the majority of the students that are on campus are here for engineering, ag, livestock judging, athletics, choir, band, you name it. So the majority are here for those special reasons. Takeaway for housing for this spring, we have an additional 211 students when compared to last spring. And you can see from spring 21 through this year on the screen how many beds we had leased those 3 years. And at this point, I'll take any questions you have.
Well, we kind of talked about it in the budget meeting the other day in regards to trying to get an idea or a handle on what our students thought about our housing situation, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, those that don't live on campus, why they don't live on campus. Is it a price thing? I don't know if you mentioned the survey. I don't know if you guys are doing a comprehensive survey. I think that housing is a very important component of the Brenham campus. It affects our food services. It affects all of the other revenue parts. So I think we really need to have a very good handle on what we're doing well and what we're not doing so well on the housing side. So I would highly encourage a comprehensive survey, and I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'd love to see the results of the survey.
We're actually working on that already. We're adding on to our surveys that we're going to be sending to students. And I know we have about 543 students who come to at least on this campus for 1 class. They may take 3 distance ed and 1 here. Most of them, that 543 out of I think 555, something around that range, most of them are within 50 miles of this campus. And they're Navasota, Washington, Giddings. I mean, I've looked at Sealy, 32 students from Sealy. So I've looked at that information too. And I've been working with IRIE, and we'll be sending that out probably this week. So it's something that we're going to start in addition to the residential students, the commuter students for this campus. Super. So thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just a quick question, I guess, to you, Richard. When we look at Prairie Lee, the fill rate's only 55, 56%. How does that work with our P3 agreement with them? Are we in any danger of getting too low as far as fill rates in those dorms?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Krause. That's a good question. We are not financially liable for that. It's a third party that owns that. Only until X number of years does it transfer over to the institution. So from the debt perspective, it's not our debt, but clearly we need to watch that because they are part of our campus. So we are concerned. We've been talking to them about strategies along with housing to see what we could do this coming fall. We do think the strategies that we implement will improve it. We don't know how much at this juncture, but we need to get the numbers up. So we've been talking a whole bunch of different things that we could do. And just as an example, in my presentation for the budget, you'll see that we've been talking to Servitas and asking where do we stand on pricing? Because that was, did we price it too high? When we went into that facility before we constructed it, we had hoped to have a much smaller price point, but interest rates went through the roof, and that caused things to change. And so that knocked them up. But they have agreed to keep the prices the same. at Prairie Lee, so that's good news from our perspective. And then we're adjusting some of ours to make sure that we're not pushing them in the direction they're coming towards us. If they want to go to there, then we want them to go there. So they've been good partners. They've been great partners. They've helped us out when we've had difficult problems ourselves. When we had the freeze, they helped us out by making rooms available for our students that were knocked out of Wheeler. So we work with them very closely. We have meetings with them on a budget perspective, seeing what they're doing. It's in our best interest that they are financially viable. Are they in danger? Not this year, they're not. They went in with the thought that there might, and this is probably not any different than other commercial ventures, they put some money aside to be able to make that first year's payment. And so they're going to be able to make that without any difficulty. I think if they were at the same level that they had this past year, the occupancy and the revenue coming in, that could create some problems for them. We're hopeful that that's not going to happen, that the numbers are going to go up.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Along that line, I would assume that we're going, if we're confronted with the rate of occupancy or the percentage of occupancy of beds going into the fall next year, that we're going to, we talked a little bit about this, but I mean, we're formalizing how we can cut. I mean, we need to just put those, consolidate those things and cut our operating cost a little bit. And
so you mentioned a more comprehensive view, not just from the survey, but I think we need to analyze that because it's touching a number of different variables. We have empty buildings. If we have empty buildings again going into the fall, what do we do? Are we going to demolish those buildings? Or do we wait with the hope, as I'm optimistic all the time, that all of a sudden they're going to fill up and then we're going to need them. So let's see where that goes before we start taking any action on that. There are a bunch of strategies. I think the biggest one that I think will be very helpful, there was a mention of the communication to specifically to students. And we did not have that going into the summertime. We were implementing it at the beginning of July. And we just didn't have enough time to be able to correspond the way that we wanted to with students that might have been interested in coming to our facilities. We hope that we're going to be doing a lot better. We believe we're going to be doing a lot better than what we did last year and get those numbers up. Now, you're going to see in my presentation, we had 100%, even when we added on these numbers before, 100% occupancy. And now it's significantly less. We do have to do things differently. We can't, but we want to look at it more comprehensively before we just jump to the conclusion there's certain things that are happening. The surveys will go a long way to answering some of those questions too.
So real quick, so with Servitas, since you kind of have to start thinking differently now, maybe before we didn't have to send out flyers, advertise, do they help partner with us on flyers and things to promote Prairie Lee?
Interesting you mentioned that. We met with them a few weeks ago, and we're going to work in partnering with them for every year after spring break. That's when we market to students about coming back the next year, right? That's they're not thinking about it before they go on spring break. They think about it when they come back, and they're going to work with us to make it more of a large scale thing, so to speak, on this campus. And they've offered to help in any way they can. So we are actively having those conversations with them. And we're all, I mean, Mr. Cervantes is involved as well in those conversations, so.
Mr. Chairman, it may be a variable that's being considered, but one of the factors that's probably impacting housing significantly is the pandemic. With so many young people dealing with social anxieties and phobias. When I was in college, I wanted my frat brothers, I wanted my athletes, we wanted to all be mobbed up in the room. But I keep hearing from students over and over again is I don't want a roommate, I don't want anybody with me. So as we're dealing with Servitas, I know we was doing it based upon putting 4 kids with a suite and all that kind of stuff. But that may not be what the market is bearing right now. What the market is bearing is that students saying, I want to be by myself. I might share a bathroom, but I don't want to share a room with anybody. So when we talk about the original model of Mill Creek and Pearlie, we were doing it based upon that, but things have changed, so.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would also say that, when we're doing a survey and trying to look at pricing, I would caution us, if Servitas is the one that built the dorm and they know what their financial model needs to be to support it, they may bring back numbers that are higher than what maybe the numbers are out there. So I would maybe do some independent looks at other institutions and what their dorms are, exclusive of Servitas, just so we have that idea. And also, if we are going to, as a board, look at potentially taking some of our dorms offline at some point in the future, that'll push those kids to that facility, which is going to be revenue that'll come off of our books and it would go to their books. So, if they need to potentially come down slightly on pricing when we give that gift, that may be something that you guys need to keep that in mind. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to item E, presentation for proposal for tuition and fees for fiscal year 2023, 2024. Mr. Cervantes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. This is a continuation of the meeting that we had in the Budget Audit Investment Finance. I've tried to narrow it down a little bit more, but respectful to Dr. Krausen because he wasn't there. I wanted him to be able to see it. We've also added, just even last night, a couple of slides. Thought they might be of some value to the board. So our first step is through the financial history, and I know you've seen some of this, Dr. Krausen, so I'll go through it pretty quickly. The budgets are characterized in the blue bars, and the red is the actuals. You'll see 21 and 22 look a lot higher in the budget. That's because of the influence of the HERF money. And then you look at 23, it's a lot less, and that's because the actuals are through December. Our operating expenses, actually the other way around, we want the actuals to be less than the budget, and so you see the red considerably less than the budget, and then 2023 because that's only through December. Replacements and renovation, just wanted to remind the board, part of what we're going to begin doing here, I believe on a regular basis, is 2021 and 2023, you could see we did not budget any of R&R. I think that's going to be a continued practice in the future. We're going to go strictly to the reserves. And if you look at 20 and you look at 19, you can see the budget, the actuals, we spent a lot less than what we budgeted. And what we were able to look at in previous years is to say that money would flow down to the bottom line. That's not going to happen as we move the money down to, or the budget down to reserves. Same thing on contingency, where we were budgeting this in operations. We wouldn't spend it. We had a pretty good practice of not spending it. It would flow down to the bottom line. We're not budgeting that anymore. That's gone away. So those practices are not something that would have helped us in the past as we ended the year with a little bit more money than what we had budgeted. Pointing out, or this slide, you'll see we're paying out $8.7 million this year. It's going to go down to $7.4 million next year, and then for a while after that, depending on when the institution borrows again. 2011 bond series is going to be paid off this year, so that's what's happening there. Historical pay increases. I think the college has done a really good job in the board recommending the pay increases that they have in the past. If I were to compare this to other institutions in the state of Texas, I think we would be right at the top. I really would. The far right shows 5 or 6%. Because that was a medium, so we just picked a number, but it's probably somewhere in between 5.5 would be closer to it. Our budget assumptions, like we've done in the past, we took the number of semester credit hours for a year, and this time, this go around, we're going to use all of 2022 numbers. And so we add up all those semester credit hours and get 379,700. And then we're going to multiply that times the rate that we're proposing to see how much more revenue we can generate. Estimated increase in the health insurance, 3%. We've had a number of years where we've had no increase, and it's possible that may happen again this year, but everything's going up, so we're just being a little cautious here and budgeting, or at least planning for more increases than what we've had in the past, in the more recent past. The estimated cost of a 1%, we've always showed this, in full-time salaries, including benefits, for 1% would be $554,000. We can take multiples of that, times it times 2 if we go to 2% or 3%. So I'm going to show you some options on salary increases that we will continue to work our way through until we get some finality on how we can move forward. So one of the options is to do what we've done. The first option there is to do what we did this year, except the percentages were higher. We took the median salary and we took the higher amount, I think that was 6%, and we multiply that time, or we gave that to the people that were below the median salary. And then the higher salary, the 5% back then, we gave that to the people that were above. So we're saying 4 or 5%. The second bullet, if we did not go with that scenario that we used last year and just do across the board 5%, that would cost $2.7, almost $2.8 million, including benefits. The third bullet's different than what we've done before. It would provide $1,500 for every full-time employee. We would take that out of reserves. As I mentioned at the Budget Audit Investment Finance Committee, that would not go to the base of an employee salary. That would be one time that we would pay that out, and that would come up to cost us $1.4 million. Our expectation is that you wouldn't take this one by itself and provide that, as it would be a combination of something done above, and even the last one too. We received a request to increase the base faculty pay from $45,000 to $52,000. The cost of that, including benefits, would be $333,000. So we applied our proposed tuition scenario that we're suggesting is $2 for in-district, $2 for out-of-district, $1 for non-resident, and $2 for general fee. And we've let's see if I can get this cursor to work. So we multiply that out, these credit hours that I just told you about for all of 2022 times the rate that we are proposing, you see, and then come up with the dollar amounts. So it would come up, we would generate a little bit over $77 million worth of revenue. When we compare that to the budget that we had the current year, the $75 million, it would generate an additional $2.3 million worth of cash for us. When we look at our tuition and general fee history, these are just tuition alone. You can see the $2, and the $1 for the non-resident, and then the $2 for the general fee. We've added that into for a student that may be taking 12 credit hours. We applied that to see how much it would cost for a semester, and these are the respective amounts compared to previous years. Then we graph that, and you can see it's not flat. There are increases that in each one of these, and especially the top one, you can see that non-resident is so much higher than the in-district and out-of-district. It's part of the reason why we're trying to slow that down a little bit. We are increasing it, but it is considerably higher. And it's a coincidence, just clear coincidence. I do not think it has anything to do with the fact that we are slowing that down, but our increases in revenue for non-resident are going up this year. We did that same thing last year, slowed down the price. So, and when I look at this, pretty much across the board, And this is something that I think we are proud of it. We've not had any huge spikes in here where we go up with dramatic increases. It's pretty flat. When you average that out for the number of years that we've had since 2019, it's only a 2.5% increase per year. Well, for the most part, some of those are above inflation because inflation was pretty low, but now they're not. This is the one slide that I've added, and there's a lot of things going on here, so let me walk through it. So it is tuition and fees and enrollment. I got to have all of those. And we've ranked these. You've seen this slide before where we've ranked the institutions by the size of their enrollment. Alamo, you can see it's in 2022 had 65,000 students. That's quite a bit. And we've also put their out-of-district fees that we had back in 2000 and with the fees to see how much it would cost for a student that was taking 12 semester hours, and then compare that to 2022. And you can see the schools that are in the districts that are in yellow. These are all major metropolitan areas. But they kept their prices the same. So 2642, 2642. And if you go back to 2022 or 2020, you would also see that all those schools in yellow kept their prices the same for 3 years in a row. So here's what's strange about it, or maybe it's not so strange. Despite the fact that they're doing that, I'm going to flip over to now the next slide, but I'm going to go back. So 8 of those top 10 institutions, like I said, kept their prices the same. 4 of them actually had decreases in enrollment. 6 had increases in enrollment. So I don't know what you make of that, but it shows that prices, to me, it's just means price is one factor. It's not the only factor. And what we're going to show, I'm going to flip back here now. None of these top 10 schools have been restored to the pre-COVID enrollment. None of them. And some of them are a lot higher than what Blinn is. We got 22% that they still have not recovered from. And Blinn's down here is 10%. So these are the major ones. Now here's again the odd thing. Here's Lone Star doing what we're doing. They're increasing their prices, 24.24, 25.68. That's a pretty healthy increase. And for that 1 year anyway, they had increases for between 21 and 22. They had increases of 2%. We had increases too, and we did the same thing. We were increasing our prices, and we have increases in enrollment just for the 1 year between 21 and 22. You look at Tarrant County and you go, oh my gosh, look, they increased to 10%. Look where they are now. They increased because they were so far down that they did come up. They kept their prices the same too, but they're still 14% below. I'm going to go back now to these takeaways. Here's the other one, really big one. This top 10 schools. Look at the annual tax revenue that they receive on a yearly basis. 400 million. Tarrant County, 323. Alamo, 312. Austin, 310. El Paso, 69. I didn't see Lone Star's numbers on the survey, but my guess is they're 300 million too. And then of course we're $2 million. That's a big part of why our strategy can't be what their strategy is, because they have other sources of revenue. The last thing here is the enrollment. When we looked at the 50 community colleges and using this same sort of approach, of the 50, 30 of the 50 are down more than 10% from fiscal year 20, pre-COVID. There's only a handful, and I think it's either 3 or 4 that, and they're smaller schools, that have been brought all the way back, 2 or 3%. So they've made some increases, but none of the large ones. So I'm going to stop there because that was a mouthful. If there's any questions before I move on. Yes, oh, sorry.
I just have a question. I know that we've talked about books being then added in at $24 per credit hour, right? Parking's going up. We expect food and housing to be up as well. Do we have any idea what the bottom line would be for a student for an increase if they're 12 to 15 credit hours?
Yes, ma'am, I do have a slide on that. I've hidden it, but I can bring it out later. You want me to bring it out now?
No, later is fine.
Okay.
I'm just
Yes,
trying to
I'll
see
I'll show that.
Thank you.
I think what you're going to see still, that there's a modest increase in that too. So, but we're not comparing it to these institutions because I have no idea what they're doing. It may be different. We can only compare that general fee and the tuition.
I have a comment, Mr. Corporal.
Yes, sir.
And this is kind of to the other board members. We need to be very careful when we're comparing other schools' out-of-district fees to our out-of-district fees. Because when you look at that list there, Alamo, Dallas, Lone Star, Tarrant, Houston, the majority of their students are in district, not out of district. Whereas we are an anomaly, the majority of our students are out of district. So we really, if we're going to compare apples to apples, we need to compare Lone Star and Houston's in-district rate to our out-of-district rate, where that's where our students are coming from. And that's the choice they have to make.
So I'll do a little bit different. I don't disagree with that. But when we look at this report for in-district and we see what all those ones that are in yellow did, they also kept their in-district the same.
Yeah, that makes
and their
sense.
enrollment went down.
Yeah.
So they had the same effect. They kept their prices stable, and they didn't have the effect that they would have liked, which is to increase enrollment. You would think if it was just the pricing.
Yeah, I don't know about how enrollment is going to, at this point in time in history, is impacted at those schools by the cost. I think we need to wait a couple of years, let COVID kind of.
I totally agree. It's clouded.
Yeah.
And
We just need to be
something's
cognizant,
happened.
though, that when we say, well, our in-district fees are compared to, our out-of-district fees are compared to their out-of-district fees, that's not a good comparison. It's really
We have,
out-of-district to
so what we have, and I think it's a compliment to us, that, and there is I agree, theirs is a different strategy, because their strategy is going to be all in-district. They want to get as much in-district as they can. They're really not interested in out-of-district, but they kept their in-district and out-of-district prices the same. We're the opposite. We're wanting to draw the out-of-district because that's the bulk of the revenue. So and this is a compliment, when you compare our prices, which are higher for out-of-district, to their in-district, they're still coming to us because there's something else there that Blinn is offering, is my thought. A&M's one of them. We have athletics here. We have dorms here. Affordability. I think compared to universities, there's a lot of factors out there. It's not just one thing.
Yes, sir.
Along that line, I mean, we are unique in several ways, and one of them we're talking about is the dormitory situation for a community college. In rates and the lack of a tax or a very minimum tax revenue. But I also, that again kind of to me begs the need for us to look at our competition and all of those things and how that factors into dorm occupancy, but also it to me, the dynamics around Houston and the college has changed really greatly. Lone Star is virtually on every street corner, and that's including out in the Katy area. There's the community colleges there. The U of H has got a school on 99 and 10 over there, and well, I think we need to try to determine. All these things are going to be a kind of a sense of competition, and we need to be able to understand a little bit what those challenges are. And just in fact, the Austin community has come out some on the west side of us, and so, I mean, all that to me may affect people, parents and children and students both, about do they really need to pay to send their youngster to Brenham when they can go right across the street and get their first 2 years, and whether the cost of the enrollment is $2 an hour more or $1 less or whatever. But I just think that's all part of what we need to be. We're unique in a very good way, but we're also, to me, uniquely volatile to or vulnerable to a lot of things that may be happening around us that we need to. We may not want to change anything, but I think we need to try to know and understand what we may be confronted with.
Mr. Chairman, I want to echo some of Mr. Trustee Mosher's sentiments, but also I think the big question is identifying who is our consumer. When we talk about marketing and branding, blending the uniqueness of it, is that it's the 3 A's, it's the academics, it's the athletics, and the arts. Blinn has a unique piece where you can have a 4 college year university experience at a 2 college, community college. So with that, number one, there's some kids who are our market, that's what they desire. They want the sports, they want the theater, like the 2 wonderful students who did the invocation and the pledge. So again, as we're targeting our marketing, we need to highlight that. The second thing is that if we have the number 1 transfer rate of the 50 junior colleges, then ultimately that price point, not just being compared to a 2-year institution, but a 4-year institution, because with the partnership with Relish, you're basically adding your first 2 years at A&M at a Blinn price point, which is a significant difference. And I think the last thing that I would just emphasize is that when we look at the whole dynamic of how we know who our constituents is that the scholarship department of Blinn has done a tremendous job. We just had something in the local paper. We have over $500,000 in scholarships. If we educated people on endowed scholarship, the Washington County scholarships, does that help offset some of the increases that we see in tuition? So for me, I think a lot of it has to do with marketing, communication, and really identifying, because some kids, they want to go to Lone Star, I just want to go around the corner, I just want to try to knock out this 2-year deal, and that's all I want to do. But what makes us unique is that, just like the Chancellor's report on Sam Houston, you could have a seamless transition and do your first 2 years of university at a junior college. So those are my observations.
Okay.
So the proposed housing rate is 5% across the board. As I mentioned earlier, we were able to talk to Servitas for Prairie Lee to not increase their rates at all. I think, and going back to Dr. Krausen's questions about their financial viability, they know that if they get the numbers that they hope for, that they're going to be able to pay their debt. So they're comfortable doing this. It is possible that they could go down lower, but they have some influence that's coming from the people that they borrowed the money from, that they put pro formas in place that said, we're going to try to increase this at a steady rate. Mill Creek did the same thing. That steady rate was 3%. They now are saying, well, let's do 2.5%. And going to the Reverend Wells's comment about these are single rooms at Mill Creek, but they too had low occupancy. And I'll show you in a minute where I think a big portion of that's coming from. But that is a part of it, I would say. So here we did something a little bit different. This is trying to figure out what it is that is happening here that's causing the lower occupancy. You can barely see it, but this purple is the housing capacity. And it's lined up all the way when it was back prior to 2019. It also lined up with our capacity. The number that we have up here is the enrollment. So it doesn't seem like there's a coincidence that when occupancy went down, enrollment was going down. So you're having less people that you have had on campus before, and the difference is pretty sizable in terms of the enrollment. We were having 2,700 folks, and then we knew COVID was going to go down, but look, it's 800 less people on campus. And then has it recovered? No, you still have about 700 less that we have. So there's less folks here. Now here's the interesting thing. We track what percentage of the students are of Brenham are living in housing. We're actually at a higher percentage. So there's less students here though. That's the problem. I think that points to enrollment. This is not to say that price is not a factor. This is one of the factors, but there's other things that are going on here. And I think this one really points more towards enrollment is probably the larger culprit here. So that increase that we're asking for is a 5% increase in meal plan rates. As you'll see for both of these, as well as the tuition, we are below, we're below what the inflation rate is. This is going to continue. Those rates are going to, inflation, and particularly in food costs, are going to continue to stay high. Now, that's what we're hearing anyway. But we're not pricing it at the 10%. We're trying to price a little bit below that because we know it's going to be tough, and we're trying to be responsive to the board too. It's tough for students. We know that. So here's the budget impact at a 1% level. And we priced in those things that we had talked about, that 3% increase in health insurance, the faculty raise going up, and then we also put in a different amount in here due to inflation for consumables, services, and travel, because we do see those numbers going up. And then we offset that with the less debt that we're going to have on an annual basis. So our total cost will come up to about 2.7 at the 1% level. And then we include in the interest rate, the increases in interest rates and revenue that we're going to be able to generate. Right now, it looks like we might have a decrease in state appropriations. We've got our fingers crossed, and actually pretty confident that number is probably going to be high, but we don't know. That's a preliminary number that we have. And then we factored in our what were proposed revenue, increases in parking, increasing in houses and food service to offset some of this. That would give us a surplus at the 1% level of $904,000. But we know if we do the 2 or 3%, something's going to have to give. We're not going to go in here and say, well, we might add a little bit in the interest rate. We may fudge a little bit and say, well, we could maybe get $200,000 more out of that. So we might change that, might make that go up. But more likely, we're going to have to decrease some of these expenses. We're not going to be able to take as much out for inflation is what it's going to boil down to. So here's what we propose for parking, 200, you know what? I am starting to think, let me get through this to see whether or not I have your slide. It may be hidden and I may need to get out of this before I'm able to do it. So the parking fees, we're proposing to go up from a $10 increase for the year. The financial impact would be $65,000. And then if they increase by the semester $5, would increase it by $5,000. Now, I don't know if you guys can remember back when you were at the university and how much parking cost. It was sized back 30 years ago at North Texas, it was $600. Yeah. Health science fees, these are pass-through costs. So we pass these off to the students if there's increases, and all of these fit into that. These are all health science fees. We need your approval because you approved the first day book. We need your approval to remove them. And you've already approved the first day complete, which is a different program for $24 per credit hour. And then there's some fees that we're going to need to remove that we're no longer using. Yeah, it's not. Joe, could you help me out a little bit? So I believe on here there's some hidden, but I'm not showing them there, so I need to unhide them first. No.
I've never heard of that. You have hidden slides.
I can tell you what it says. Okay.
Yeah, you've had hidden slides.
So it says what I said earlier, that the costs are still going up, but it's not spiked up. It's about the same sort of gradual increase. And actually, as we looked at it, we thought, that all looks reasonable too. Now, is it the 2.5%? I didn't calculate that, but it's that same sort of gradual increase because that's consistent with what we've been doing, trying to stay above the inflation to the extent that we could. But now, my point is now we're below inflation on all of these price increases that we're doing. And we're doing it because we want to make sure that the students aren't subjected to a very drastic increase that would make it more difficult for them. As well as we all philosophically agree, we're trying to keep the prices down as low as we can. I would, Dr. Hensley, Mr. Chairman, I think since we don't have this, what I can do is to make copies and send those to the board afterwards so they can see it. But we have that slide.
Okay.
Oh, I can't figure it out.
Which slide is it?
It would be this one and that one. Oh, look at Joe. All right. See, I don't lie about everything. It's there. So you can see on the red is still the non-resident. And this is just Brenham. This is not including everybody. We had to take some licenses with this average because you have you have 3 different meal plans and you have different dorms out there too. So we had to average that out to the extent that we could. So you can see the prices for in-district. That's a sizable amount, but when we look at the ratios, it's pretty steady increase. There isn't anything drastic that's going on there. Non-resident, the top one, going from 7,200 to almost 9,000. That would have been the biggest one. So I think I have, and this is the percentage. Here's the percentages again. So again, plus room and board. It's doing the same thing that the other one that we had did. The percentage increases are coming down deliberately. We're increasing, but we're not increasing at the same rate. We're trying to get closer to this inflation rate. And now all of these are below the inflation rate, have been last couple of years. There's the dollar amounts. I know you're interested in those.
And that would be the annual fee. Is that two?
That's a 12 semester credit hour, so that's just a semester. Yeah, one semester.
Any questions, anyone?
I still think, because you did not have this in their packet, if you don't mind, I will see if I can forward this to the board.
Be great. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cervantes.
You're welcome.
Is this the last?
Okay, we're going to move on to the consent items. Number 5 on our agenda. All items listed in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Trustees and will be enacted upon one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the trustee so requests, in which event the item will be removed from consent and considered in discussion and possible action. Trustees receive agenda materials in advance of the meeting to prepare for the business to be conducted. A, approval of minutes for the January 17th regular meeting. B, approval of proposed amendments to BBB local. C, approval of proposed amendments to FLBE local. D, approval of proposed amendments of GDA local. Receive and accept Washington County Appraisal District amended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. And F, authorization for the administration to implement an Associate of Science, Health Sciences nursing degree program. I would entertain
Mr.
a motion.
Chairman, as it relates to item 5E, I will be recusing myself from voting on that agenda item since I serve on the Washington County Appraisal District Board.
Yes, sir. So noted. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Trustee Mosier. Trustee Benke, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda passes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, discussion and possible action items. A is discussion and approval of policy priorities for the 88th session of the Texas Legislature. I think Mr. Schubert's going to take that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, fellow trustees. Back before you again today. As you recall, at the November meeting, we had an initial discussion about our policy priorities for the current session. And this is at that meeting, we talked about there were still some things in the works. So we were going to hold off on having you approve those items, let some of that kind of play out further down the road before we brought those back. Some of that has occurred, some of it hasn't, and I'll kind of walk through what that means here shortly. But you've got in your packet the proposed policy priorities, and what we're going to look at is just one by one. We've organized them into 3 different sections this year, just to make it easier to flow, easier to read through. The first section you've got is the community college finance reform. This is related to the work that the Texas Commission on the Community College Finance did in the interim. Trustees, as you recall, the current budget that was produced earlier this session went off of the current formula, where contact hours was the highest percentage of state funding, then you had your success points in your core operations. Mr. Cervantes had in his presentation earlier a proposed reduction in state appropriations. The reason that was in there is because the way that the current budget is written, there's about a $700,000 reduction in state funding to Blinn over this next upcoming biennium. The reason that number is plugged in there is because that's the only number we have. There is a rider that's been placed in the budget that talks about the Community College Finance Commission work, and if the bill that structures those finances passes, there is a rider, contingency rider in the budget that fully funds the items and request for the additional funding for community colleges when they switch over, if it passes, to a outcome-based model as opposed to a contact hour-based model based on the commission work. So the reason we plug that number in is that's the only number we have. As I stand before you today at 11:49, the bill on the Community College Finance Commission has yet to be filed. We are being told it's being drafted. The filing deadline is coming up very shortly. It's at the beginning of March. And so we are hoping that will be released and filed in the very near future to come into the deadline. This is where I think this is going. If I can pull out my crystal ball, which is broken from time to time, and we'll see if it's working today. I think what's going to happen is this is going to be a very comprehensive bill. It's taking a long time to draft it because there's a backlog already in Legislative Council, but this is very comprehensive. I think what's going to happen is they're going to draft this bill, they're going to file the bill to get in underneath the deadline, which they're bumping up very closely to, and then once that's released, there's not going to be a lot of time between it's drafted and filed for the stakeholders to review that. I think what's going to happen is once that bill is filed, the stakeholders will get together. They'll work out some of the issues in the bill, work out some clarifying points, and there'll be what we call a committee substitute that is subbed out for that bill in the committee process. If I was to predict how this is going, I think that's where this is going. There's just not time, because of the length of it's taking to draft this bill, there's not time to adequately vet that bill before it has to be filed before the deadline. So we continue to work with our legislators, we continue to work with TAC on that, but that's where I'm anticipating this road's going to go. I also anticipate that based on the recommendations from the commission, that Blinn will have an increase in our funding, if it's under an outcomes-based model, because our success points have been increasing and going in the right direction in the last several sessions. And so I think, in my mind, Blinn's going to do well under an outcome-based funding model. I've mentioned that all along on the commission. The problem is we don't have the formulas yet. The formulas and the dollar levels will be contained in the bill that creates the recommendations from the Finance Commission, and that has yet to see the light of day. So once we get that, we will analyze that. We'll go through and have financial analysis of that. But once again, as I said earlier, I am not anticipating that we will have the final financial analysis of the Community College Finance Commission bill before spring break. I'm not anticipating we have those numbers before spring break, so we will roll with that as it comes up. So I give you that background to say the first item is community college finance reform, and we will keep you very updated on once that bill is released and filed, and of course updated on the financial analysis once that is available. Questions on the first item?
So I'm assuming you're asking for our support of this particular deal, even though we're not really sure exactly what it's going to say at this point.
We are, that is correct. Slightly odd on this first one. I would prefer to have had the bill drafted and at least reviewed before we're asking for this, but we're already 60 days into session of 140-day session, and so we need to, I feel good about where this bill is going. If that changes, once we read the bill, I'll be the first to let you know. But I do feel good about Blinn's position under this outcome-based funding model based on our history of our success points, the success of our success point funding. Let me put it like that. The second policy priority, what we've done here is, obviously with TAC, our partners in TAC, we do support their legislative priorities that come out. What we've done this year is we've just grouped them under one policy priority. All of the TAC priorities are in this one item as opposed to having individual ones. We just group them together. So I'll just kind of walk through these quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions as we go. The first one involves the Texas Education Opportunity Grants, what we call TEOG. That is one of the state's primary sources of financial aid, grants for students, and those are based on financial need. What TAC has identified is currently we have to have a match to draw down those funds. The college has to put up matching funds to draw down those funds. And so what we're asking for is universities have to do the same thing, but universities are currently allowed to use their Pell Grants as the match. So they don't have to put up other funds, they just use the Pell Grants that are already coming as the match for their drawdown on their version, what's called Texas Grants. And so what TAC is asking for is the community colleges would have the same ability as universities to use Pell as the match to draw those dollars down. The second item talks about cybersecurity and IT modernization. During last session, the Joint Operations Committee was formed by House Bill 4018, and that's look at updating IT security, modernizing those items for community colleges. What this is asking for is one-time funding to kickstart some of those programs. We're ahead of the game in that with some of the things we've done and spent, but based on your guidance on IT modernization and those sort of things. But some of the smaller colleges simply do not have the funds to invest into their IT modernization. So they're looking for one-time grant funds from the legislature as a funding source to do that. The third item, which is something that we've already mentioned earlier, is the clinical nursing sites. There's a statewide shortage of clinical nursing sites. And as you're aware, in order to graduate from a community college or a university with a health science related degree, you have to have a certain number of clinical rotation hours. The problem is there's less spots for those rotations than the demand. And so when we are competing for those clinical rotation spots, we are literally competing against all four-year universities, all community colleges that have health science degrees for those spots. And so what Senator Kolkhorst has done after inviting several groups to testify, as the Chancellor mentioned earlier, is they're looking at doing a statewide strategy to increase those sites. And that's exactly what we proposed at the summer committee meeting, was the state needs to step in and do this because you'll have much more sway than any individual college or university trying to work with their partners. We have wonderful health science partners with Baylor Scott & White, CHI St. Joseph, and many other areas. But if the state steps in and tries to work on a statewide setup for that, that will be much more successful than any single college could do on their own. So we applaud those efforts. That will go a very long way. Our health science groups are limited in their enrollment capacity because directly related to the number of clinical rotation spots they do. And just so you're aware, this is a real world problem. We recently had, very recently, a hospital in our service area that we had clinical rotation spots is shutting down. And so we have to now find a replacement for those very coveted clinical rotation spots. Those students are in the middle of their cohort, so we can't just leave them. We have to find other solutions for them. So it's a very real world problem, not only in overall planning, but also when these sort of things happen, to scramble to find those spots. That's going to be very helpful for us and all colleges in Texas. The final item is the Texas Transfer Framework. As you know, there's been lots of work recently about transferability of courses from 2 years to 4 years in the legislature. They worked on what they're calling the Texas Transfer Framework to improve that transferability. The coordinating board has realized in their plan for that they lack certain statutory authority to enforce those rules. So what TAC is saying is we support the coordinating board in gaining that statutory authority needed to enforce the rules that have been set forth under the Texas Transfer Framework. So we are asking for your support for all of those TAC-related items. The final item you've heard plenty on. I won't spend too much time on this. This is our potential Blinn College District service area expansion. In a summary, you'll see on your page there's a yellow portion. You're very familiar with this. We like to change the color of that just to make sure you're paying attention. Sometimes it's white, sometimes it's yellow. It might be another color next time just to make sure we're all paying attention. What that represents is a portion adjacent to our service area that is not assigned to any other community college service area. What it represents is Waller ISD. Waller is split geographically. Part of Waller ISD is in Waller County, which is in our service area. The other part of Waller ISD is in Harris County, which is what that yellow portion represents. As I've said before, Waller High School actually sits in Harris County, not in Waller County. So what we're asking the legislature to do is to expand Blinn service area into this yellow portion, which would place the remaining portion of Waller ISD that is located in Harris County in Blinn's service area. You've heard lots about that. I won't belabor that point. Had some very good meetings regarding this in the Capitol recently, and I would, these bills have been filed. Senator Kolkhorst and Representative Cassell have both filed these bills, and we're moving forward on those strategies, but we would like the official approval from the board. This is also, Mr. Chairman, why we're coming for this, is we're actually doing this work in Austin now, and I feel a little awkward that we haven't had your blessing on this, and so that's why we're bringing these policy priorities now, so y'all can approve those, and happy to answer any other questions you might have on this or anything else related to the legislature.
Any questions? Hearing none, I would look for a motion that the board discuss and approve the college district's policy priorities for the upcoming 88th session of the Texas Legislature. Trustee Bohart. Second. Trustee Wells, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, B, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for roofing replacement of buildings A, C, and D on the Blinn Bryan campus. Mr. Cervantes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Feldig is going to brief us on the next three agenda items.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Kolkhorst, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. As Mr. Cervantes said, I'm here for the next 3 items. Agenda item 6B is a request that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems for roofing replacement at buildings A, C, and D on the Blinn Bryan campus. These are the 3 original buildings on the Blinn Bryan campus, and due to their age, it's time for us to replace that roof. On July 31st, the college district received 12 proposals in response to this request for proposals for roofing contractor services. Committee reviewed those proposals, and based on the committee's recommendation, the administration recommends that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems for $735,721 for roofing contractor services related to these roofing replacements. This is under budget, or under the estimate, and is also planned to be a summer project completing by August of 23, so we can be ready to reoccupy these buildings in the fall. This will be funded out of the FY23 R&R budget. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Mr. Bohart.
Good morning,
Yes, sir.
Mark.
Good morning, sir.
You were probably anticipating a question from me. Just a little information about that project itself. Is that a removal and replacement or a layover?
It is a complete removal. We will go down to the metal deck and put a whole new system on.
Secondarily, what is the anticipated useful life and warranty on that project?
I would need to check, but generally these systems, this is the standard system we're putting on all of our newer buildings. It's a 20-plus year warranty and life expectancy on those.
Okay.
It's what's called a TPO roof.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Hearing none, looking for a recommendation that the board authorizes the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems, Inc. for roofing replacement of buildings A, C, and D on the Blinn Bryan campus.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Krausen makes the motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Aylert.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She beat you to it. Is the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item C, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for roof and gutter replacement at the Blinn College Park Apartments, buildings 1, 2, and 3 on the Blinn Brenham campus.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So again, another roofing project I'm here to talk about. It's the summer for putting roofs on buildings. This is a request that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems for roof and gutter replacement at Blinn College Park Apartments, buildings number 1, 2, and 3, the original 3 buildings out there at BCPA. On January 31st, the college district received 7 proposals in response to this request for proposal. The search committee reviewed these proposals, and based on that review, the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems for $210,102 for this roof and gutter replacement. Again, it's under the estimate for the project. It would be completed as a summer project at BCPA, allowing students to reoccupy in August of '23, and it's funded out of the FY23 R&R budget. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Same questions. Same questions.
This is a shingle roof. Again, it's a 20 asphalt shingle roof. It's a 20-plus year warranty on those. I don't have the exact date, but it's the kind of the max warranty we can get on it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Where's CR Systems?
They're based out of Bryan College Station. They've been very aggressive. Most recently, they put a roof on the Bain building last summer for us. But they're a Bryan College Station company.
Any other questions? I'm looking for a motion that the board authorizes the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems for roof and gutter replacement at the Blinn College Park Apartments, buildings 1, 2, and 3 on the Blinn Brenham campus. Trustee Aylert makes the motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Krausen seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. All right, last item on the discussion and possible action item agenda, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for interior finish upgrades in buildings A and G on the Blinn Bryan campus.
All right, so not a roofing project. We're going inside now. This is a continuation of some interior work we've been doing over the last few years to upgrade interior finishes in hallways and corridors on the Bryan campus. This authorization, or this request, is that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Aggie Land Construction for these interior finish upgrades in corridors and hallways in buildings A and G on the Blinn Bryan campus. On January 31st, we received 8 proposals for this request for proposal. Again, the search committee reviewed these proposals, and based on the outcomes of that review, administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Aggie Land Construction. They are also out of the Bryan College Station area. That's for $187,600 for these services for the interior finish upgrades at buildings A and G. This again is under our estimate and would be completed as a summer project, being completed by August of '23, and this is funded out of the FY23 R&R budget. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Quick question, Mark. There's a big difference between them and everybody else. What's up with that?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a large difference there. The next bidder with their bid is $215,000. Aggie Land Construction is fully aware. They actually completed the interior upgrades that we did last summer. So
that was my second question. So
yes, they know what they're getting into. So okay. we are fully confident in their abilities to complete this project.
Thank you.
It's good that we've been getting so many bids on our projects.
We are
That's a good
very
sign.
happy with the turnout of these bids and the number of bidders.
I actually have another question. So are we using that new bid software system that we talked about in the past? That Schrader,
We are on the verge of that.
not
And
using it yet? then,
Mr.
huh?
Cervantes, do you want to make a comment?
I know it has nothing to do with this particular action item, but.
That's correct. We still are in the process of reviewing it and preparing it for implementation. We're almost there.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Aggieland Construction for interior finish upgrades in buildings A and G on the Blinn Bryan campus.
So moved.
Trustee Bohart, trustee Benke, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank
you, sir. Okay, now we have moved on to item 7, executive session. It looks like we're going to go into executive session in accordance with 551.071 and 551.072. Let's take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back in here at 12:17. It's 12:07 at this time.